I would be that man.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I would. Very good. This is not console wars, this is console friends. Oh man, Taco Bell for breakfast. Who thought that was a good idea? Oh, Batman. Hey, did you know that in the original Batman movie, instead of Michael Keaton, they were originally going to cast
Bill Murray. Yeah, everyone knows that.
Oh. Well, did you know who was almost cast as Robin?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy. Yeah, I'm a huge Batman fan. You're not gonna stump me on trivia.
Well, no need to get all high and mighty. Besides, I'm a bigger Batman fan than you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I have all the Batman shirts.
Yeah, I have a Batman Snuggie. I'm Batman.
Well, I have all these various Batmobiles.
Vroom vroom. I have various action figures. I'm Batman.
Bat paintings.
I got a Batman tattoo.
I have a Batman controller for PlayStation 3.
I have a Batman controller for the Xbox 360. A far superior console.
What? PS3 is so much better than Xbox.
Oh yeah? Well, wait. Let's not get into that yet.
Well, I have the best Batman game of the 90s, The Adventures of Batman and Robin on Sega Genesis.
You must be mistaken, because the best Batman game of the 90s was The Adventures of Batman and Robin for the Super Nintendo.
In the 1930s, Bob Kane created the comic character Batman. But it kinda sucked, so Bill Finger made it better, and a legend was born. Batman was able to expand from comics onto radio, movie serials, and a TV show. The show made Batman incredibly popular, but also had everyone see Batman as campy. This camp image lasted until darker comics and movies came out. 1989's Batman introduced a darker Batman to a wide audience and is regarded as a classic. And its sequel, Batman Returns? Not so much. However, these movies paved the way for Batman, the animated series.
The animated series was an instant success. It kept on with the theme of a darker Batman. It introduced new origin stories and new characters as well. With solid animation, writing, and voice acting, the animated series is not only considered one of the best cartoons of all time, but one of the best incarnations of Batman as well. The series was successful enough to have its own line of comics, toys, a spin-off series, feature films, and of course, video games. The games we are looking at today are The Adventures of Batman and Robin for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Two very different games. Which one's better? Let's find out.
Super Nintendo's graphics look fantastic.
Talk about a game that has a look of the series. All the main characters and villains look like they did on the show. And look at the detail on each character. There's a nice variety in levels. And how the levels relate to each villain is on the money. In smooth animation, this game has smoother animation than the cartoon.
Well, Sega's graphics look magnificent.
This game has the look of the show down. Look at these characters. Look at these locations. Look at that smooth animation. And if that wasn't enough, this game is loaded with 3D, from the levels to different objects.
Yeah, 3D. But your game has problems.
First off, once again, the characters are smaller in the Sega game. Is that Batman or Batmite? Because they're smaller, they don't have as much detail. And your levels. Talk about boring and repetitive. So many of these levels just have the same thing over and over in the background. How about a little variety? It's bad enough it looks the same. They couldn't use some different colors once in a while. Super Nintendo's levels aren't repetitive and actually give you something interesting to look at.
You're just jealous because your game's so 2D.
This game pushes 16-bit to the limit with 3D levels. Look how intense this boss fight is. This game looks like it's flying right off the screen. Better look out!
Have you ever seen such big and beautiful balls?
Really? Again? Will you stop talking about your balls like they're the greatest thing ever? They're not that impressive. Nobody cares about your balls.
Even though there's lots of 3D, it's not necessarily the best use of 3D. And 3D doesn't make up for how plain the rest of the game looks. With better characters, animations, and levels, best graphics go to Nintendo.
Super Nintendo's presentation is top-notch.
The game starts off looking just like the animated series. Every level begins with the title card of the villain. Then each level starts off with a cutscene that looks like it takes place in the Batmobile computer or Batcave. The characters are looking sharp too. There are even in-game cutscenes with interactions between Batman and the villains. The story is played out just like an episode of the show.
Aw, Sega's better than that.
This game also has the look of the animated series. The game starts off with a nice little story. No dialogue, but you don't need it to know what chaos is ensuing. Then you have these beautifully detailed title cards in between levels. And then it's all topped off with an ending.
That's it? How can that possibly compare to my game?
It doesn't waste time with boring cutscenes. Just give me action. I mean, you know nobody likes hearing Batman talk.
Where's the trigger? You never give it to an ordinary citizen.
Wrong Batman, genius.
This is Kevin Conroy, the best Batman. And I'm sure we all don't mind hearing his voice in our head when we read this. I'm sure we hear all the voices from the cartoon. Also, these cutscenes give you hints. They tell you what you can and can't do. It's essential storytelling and it aids in gameplay. With actual cutscenes between and during levels, presentation goes to Nintendo.
Music from the show sounds great on the Super Nintendo.
The main theme sounds great. Other music is beautifully orchestrated, keeping in style of the show. All in all, a top-notch soundtrack that captures the feel of the show.
Alright, how does the music from the show sound on Sega?
I don't have music from the show.
What? Not even the main theme?
No, but I
Oh
do
man,
have...
that was way too easy. Looks like best sound goes...
Oh, just because I don't have music from the show doesn't mean it isn't any good. My game dares to be bold with its own original soundtrack. It really works well with this game.
What is it, Tecto?
Actually,
In a Batman game? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
just give it a listen.
This game is intense, and it needed a soundtrack to match. It gives the game drive. It matches the gameplay well. This music is just freaking awesome.
It doesn't matter how good it is. My game has music from the show, and yours doesn't. No Batman game can sound good without its source music.
No Batman game? Shame on you. Where's your Nintendo pride? Remember Batman on NES?
No music from the movie, but still a classic soundtrack in its own right. And so is the Sega games. With an original soundtrack that's too good to ignore, best sound goes to Sega.
Super Nintendo's gonna win gameplay.
The game plays like a beat-em-up platformer. You take out enemies by punching or kicking, but just like Batman, you have a variety of weapons at your disposal. Some items help you take out enemies, and others help you get through the level. Different levels require you to use different items in order to beat them. This game requires you to use brains and brawn, just like Batman. Overall, this game has a great Batman feel to it.
Yeah, that's nice. If you like it boring, let Sega show you how it's done.
This game is very different in that it plays like a side-scrolling shooter. It's very similar to Contra in many ways. Like Contra, the action is very intense, with hordes of enemies on screen at a time. but you do have a life bar, so it is forgiving there. You have to power up your weapon with items. So you have 3 different weapons, and each one can be powered up to 6 times. You don't lose the weapon when you die, but you do have to power it up again. Intense action worthy of Batman? Sega definitely has the better gameplay.
You think that's better than my game?
When you think of Batman video games, you don't think shooter. That goes against what Batman stands for.
No guns. And let me show you how to shoot missiles off of my Batbot, Selena. Because Bane hurt me one time, and I don't want him to do that again. So you use this to shoot him, just in case. I'm not saying you have to, but you might have to shoot him.
The very notion of Batman's main attack being a projectile attack is odd and not very Batman. When you think of Batman, you think cool, methodical, using violence as a last resort. Not a guy who seems like he's in a panic and just throwing weapons in every direction at all times.
The Sega game is so Batman. You know what's not Batman? Deceiving people.
The names of the games are the adventures of Batman and Robin. On the cover of both games, you see Batman and Robin. You think you'd be able to play as Batman and Robin, right? Well, not so true in the Super Nintendo game. This game is Batman exclusive. Sure, Robin shows up in cutscenes, but you never get to play as him. You can play as him in the Sega game. If SNES was just gonna play as Batman, they should have just called it Batman the Animated Series instead of The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Who cares if you can't play as Robin?
Robin plays just like Batman, so there's no need to play as him. I'm sure every time 2 people play this game, no one wants to be Robin. People probably argue about who gets to be Batman all the time.
That's ridiculous. Who doesn't want to be Robin?
Do you ever play as Robin?
Whoa, do I look like I like Dick?
A little.
Dick Grayson, Robin, not a fan.
Right. Anyways, the Sega game is seriously flawed.
This game is hard. They throw every enemy at you all the time. You get no time to rest. If you kill every enemy on the screen, more just keep coming. You just have to keep moving right and avoid the enemies or you'll die. How is that fun? The game starts off kinda easy, but then it gets way too hard. The problem is the power-up system. Like you said, every time you die, you get weaker. This sucks. It is so hard to not die in the later levels of this game. The enemies get harder to kill, the levels get longer, and you're too weak to do anything because you keep dying and you can't find any power-ups. It's too much and it's too stressful. The Super Nintendo lets you relax a little. You're not just constantly kicking the crap out of people. There's platforming variety. More importantly, you're not getting weaker every time you die. The Sega version, all you do is fight, fight, fight. Don't blink or you'll die, especially this level. I swear it's like 20 minutes long. And you gotta beat this game in one sitting. This game is very long. Why couldn't it have passwords? The Super Nintendo version has a password system. Since the gameplay on Sega is so unforgiving, and Super Nintendo feels more like a Batman game, gameplay goes to Nintendo.
After playing both games back to back, the best Adventures of Batman and Robin game goes to Super Nintendo.
It has better graphics and presentation. It doesn't have a cool original soundtrack, but it does have the sound of the show. It also has the best gameplay. While the Sega game isn't horrible, it just isn't a Batman game. When you think of Batman, you don't think of Contra-like shooter. You think defeating enemies using your fists, various weapons, and brains. It's more in line with the current Batman. With more of an overall Batman feel, Best Adventures of Batman and Robin game goes to Nintendo.
Thanks for watching our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys have been requesting this one for a long time, so I hope you enjoyed it. Keep leaving suggestions for future videos, and we will get to them. Check us out on Facebook or Twitter for behind-the-scenes stuff. Later.